Sitting at your table and your players look like they're bored and dreary-eyed, want to get them engaged once again and feel like they're living at the table? Well, stick to the end of this video and I'll show you the 5 tips in order to increase your players' engagement at the table. Let's get into it. So, tip number 1 is to quite simply just know your players. Now, if you're running a game for these people, you've been running for a very long time, if you know your players, it makes it extremely easy to know what exactly engages them. Maybe you have a role-playing group, so if you throw an interesting role-playing encounter at them, it will just engage their senses. Or maybe you have a very combat-oriented group, so if you throw a really hard combat encounter at them, they'll be like, let's start paying attention more. Or maybe you have a mix of the both, so you have to throw a role-playing combat encounter in order to really engage your players. Whatever it is, when you know your players, you can know what to throw at them to increase their engagement. Now let's go on to tip number 2. Alright, so tip number 2 is to quite simply listen to your players and provide them what they want. So for instance, when you're sitting at your table and you can see your players starting to get a little dreary-eyed, you can start to pay attention to certain things that they say if you have very vocal players. Sometimes they'll say little things that will give you the hints and clues to what exactly they're looking for or what they want in order to engage their attention. Listen very carefully, and once you figure out what it is, just provide it to them. Just flat out give it to them. Hell, even if you have to rip off the roof of the tavern in order to drop a combat encounter in there, just go ahead and do it, because it's better to get your players' attention than it is to have them bored and not enjoying themselves at the table. Number 3 is to skip past all the slow scenes. So if you are in a particularly slow scene that your players aren't interested, don't really care about, and there's a much more interesting scene on the other horizon, just brush past it and not even worry about it, or make it go by faster, or simply just end it and move on to the next scene, because it's so much more important to have your players engaged and loving the story than it is to have them sit through everything that you planned for if they're not enjoying it. So just move past all those slow scenes. Tip number 4 is to quite literally just explain in detail each one of your players' actions. So the very quickest way in order to get your players to continuously stay engaged at your table is to explain their actions. So if one of them is trying to flirt with the barmaid, you can spend a ludicrous, or not ludicrous, but a decent amount of time explaining how you walk up to it with your strut, how you slyly sit next to the barmaid, and just go in detail, because your player will really appreciate that, and by you doing that, they'll stay engaged because their character who's doing all these actions, and they will just stay on every single word you say because it might be you describing something that they are doing. All right, tip number five is to quite literally drop in the dragon. Now, what I mean by this is to simply put in something random that is just so not what your players were expecting that they have no choice but to pay attention to be like, what's going on? Like, for instance, literally just drop in a dragon. You will instantly see all your players freak out and try to figure out how they now have to deal with this dragon, who either might want to roleplay with them or might want to just kill them, and they have to deal with the fact that this monstrous beast is now wanting to kill and end their lives. So just drop in a dragon if you see your players getting a little glossy-eyed, as they will quickly come back to reality and pay attention to what you're doing at the table. So I really hope you guys liked it, and I'm gonna link my Discord down below where you can join other storytellers just like me and you who are just wanting to talk about their stories, their campaigns, or just have questions that we all can help them answer. So please jump down into Storyteller's Paradise, and this is my Twitter right here, so go follow me over there, and I'll try to post more and more D&D related content just for all of you guys. Have a fantastic day. In a world without fantasy, sometimes we need a little Dungeons and Dragons.